They tell you it's luck. They tell you it's the zip code you were born in, or the school you attended. But if you study the titans, the ones like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Steve Jobs, you'll find a common thread that has nothing to do with bank accounts. It's the frequency of exchange. Most people live in a state of asking. They ask for a job. They ask for a raise. They ask for a break. But the 1%? They live in a state of offering. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Caleb. It's a story about a man who had absolutely nothing. No home, no shoes, no hope. Until one 5-minute conversation flipped a switch that turned a beggar into a tycoon. This is about the moment you stop waiting for the world to give and start teaching the world what you have to offer. Brookside Station was a cathedral of noise. Thousands of people moved through its iron gates every hour, yet Caleb was completely invisible. To him, the world was a giant vending machine that was permanently out of order. He sat there, day after day, leaning against the cold marble, waiting for the world to finally give him something back. He watched the expensive shoes blur past him. He watched the laughter of families and the stress of businessmen. He thought to himself, another day, another 1,000 faces. They look through me like I'm a ghost. Maybe I am. Maybe this is all I'll ever be. A shadow in a suit and tie world. He didn't realize it yet, but he was trapped in a prison made of his own expectations. Then came Mr. Donovan. He didn't just walk. He commanded the very air around him. Caleb saw the glint of a gold watch, the sharp lines of a tailored wool coat. He saw an opportunity. Caleb stood up, his knees popping, and held out a weathered cardboard cup. "Please, sir. Anything helps. Just a few cents for a meal?" Donovan stopped. He didn't look disgusted. He didn't look hurried. He looked disappointed. He didn't reach for his wallet. Instead, he reached for Caleb's mind. He looked Caleb dead in the eyes and asked a question that felt like a slap. "Tell me something, Caleb. Why should I give you my energy, my money, when you offer absolutely nothing in return?" Caleb froze. The noise of the station seemed to die away. I'm homeless, sir," he stuttered. "I don't have anything to give." Donovan shook his head gently. "If you believe you have nothing to give, you will always stay exactly where you are. Life works through exchange. You offer value. You receive value. If you bring nothing to the table, do not be surprised when you are left hungry. You aren't poor because you lack money, Caleb. You're poor because you believe you are empty." And with those final, cold words, Donovan boarded his train and disappeared into the steam. Caleb stood there, his hand still extended, but his cup felt heavier than it ever had before. That night, the rain turned Brookside into a city of mirrors. Caleb sat under the bridge, the words echoing in the darkness. "If you believe you have nothing to give, you will stay where you are." He realized something painful. He'd spent years asking, but never giving. Not because he was selfish, but because he had been convinced of his own worthlessness. He watched a baker in a distant window trade bread for coins. He watched a janitor trade his time for a paycheck. He began to wonder, what could a man with nothing possibly trade? He looked around the rusted fence of the tracks, and then he saw them, small, vibrant wildflowers, fighting their way through the concrete. On the third morning, Caleb didn't hold out his hand. He went to the fence. He carefully picked a small bunch of the flowers, purples, yellows, and soft blues. He sat back down at his usual spot. A woman walked by, and dropped a coin into his cup out of habit, for the first time in years. Caleb looked her in the eyes. He smiled warmly and handed her a single flower. "For your day, ma'am," he said. She paused. She was surprised. Then she gave him a real smile, a look of genuine human connection, and thanked him. By the end of the day, something crazy happened. When he had flowers, people gave him more. They weren't just giving to a beggar. They were participating in a beautiful trade. Weeks passed. Caleb stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like a trader. He learned which flowers stayed fresh longest. He learned which colors made people stop in their tracks. Then, he spotted a familiar face through the window of an arriving train. "Mr. Donovan." Caleb didn't wait. He rushed over, holding a fresh, vibrant bouquet. "Sir," he said, "today I actually have something to offer you. If you help me, I want to give you these in return." Donovan smiled a slow, proud smile. He handed Caleb a $20 bill and accepted the flowers. "Now you understand," Donovan said. "Today you're not acting like a beggar. You're acting like a businessman." Those words hit Caleb like lightning. Caleb walked away from that station that night, and he never sat on that piece of cardboard again. He took his small profits and bought real seeds. Then he bought better soil. Then he bought a small wooden cart. He worked while the city slept. He studied the art of the bloom. He moved from the street corner to a stall, and finally to a small brick-and-mortar lease near the heart of the city. 6 months later, a man in a crisp shirt and a leather briefcase stood on the platform of Brookside Station. He looked at the spot where he used to sit. The invisible wall was gone. He wasn't a shadow anymore. He was the light. Mr. Donovan walked past, heading for the 9:05 express. He slowed down, looking at the man with the briefcase. "Do I know you?" he asked, sensing a familiar energy. Caleb laughed. "Yes, twice actually. Once when you refused to give me money, and once when you bought flowers from me." Donovan's eyes widened. "You're Caleb? The man from the entrance?" "Not anymore," Caleb replied. "I run a flower business now. I'm heading out to expand to my second location." Donovan reached out his hand. And this time, Caleb didn't hold out a cup. They shook hands as equals. "You did it," Donovan whispered. "I didn't do anything," Caleb replied. "I just realized the table was always mine." Life transforms the very second you transform the way you see yourself. If you keep telling yourself you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. If you believe you're small, you'll live small. But the moment you recognize your worth, your ability to bring something meaningful to this world, everything changes. Don't play yourself down. Don't think you have nothing to offer. Start small. Start today. Start exactly where you are. Because when your thoughts level up, your entire future is forced to level up with them. If this story sparked something in you, hit that like button. Drop a comment. Share this with someone who feels stuck. Stay motivated. Stay unstoppable. I'll see you in the next one.